Hey there YouTube, welcome on back to Artichoke Dip. My name is Rob, solo tabletop gamer. And I know it's been a while since I've made a video, and I'm going to get into that here in a minute and talk about some new items I've brought into my library and some of my thoughts on some of the games that are really I find myself going back to for solo play. So stick around, we'll get into that, and if you liked the video, please click the like button. It lets me know you like the content. And if you're new here, you have not subscribed, don't forget to click that subscribe button followed by the bell icon. Every time I upload a new video, you will get a notification so you don't miss one. Alright, so it's been a while since I have made a video. And despite with the pandemic and everything going on, we have been extremely busy at work. Spring hit and things have just exploded and went nuts, and well, more hours, and not complaining. You know, can always use that money, so I'll take it while it's here, because let's hope, keep our fingers crossed, things keep going smooth and keep running in a decent linear fashion, we'll say. Although I have my doubts, but you know, that's a completely different subject and has nothing to do with gaming. Alright, my friends, so if you've been wondering where I've been at, that's where I have been, but don't think for a moment I haven't been gaming, because as a matter of fact, I have been, and been doing quite a bit of it. I just have not gotten back into my Ravenloft game. I have been letting that one set until I actually get a decent weekend to where I have time to set everything up and sit down and actually do a really good playthrough with it and be able to carry on with that storyline. But hey, that's a different video for a different time, and this is just completely different. This is a kind of a review, some of my thoughts on some different game systems that are out there. Particularly, maybe you guys already have these in your library, maybe you've never heard of them, and maybe after this video, maybe some of them will find their way into your library. So, one thing about games I have noticed lately, and I'm sure some of you have noticed this as well, we had this huge gaming explosion that occurred, and it seemed like there was new games coming out all the time, new ideas, new worlds, new mechanic systems, all of this to hit the tabletop gaming world, particularly with board games and things such as that. But then it's almost like we've hit this lull. Now, I'm sure the pandemic played a very large part into it. I'm sure the global shortages that are going on right now is playing another part in that as well. But the one thing I have noticed, and I'm sure you have as well, is this marketing scheme, is like what I like to call it. And what that is taking a clone of a game system that's already currently out there, dressing it up with some fancy art, putting a different cover on it, calling it a new name, and then marketing it out there as a new game, when in fact it's really not. It's just the same game, it's just been reprinted. One of those games that has been done over and over and over again, need I say the name, Dungeons and Dragons. But, so a friend of mine, Mr. Trevor Green, who runs the YouTube channel Deathstalker 5, after several conversations, and he finally convinced me to look into Swords and Wizardry. And me and him and I said, man, I don't want any more retro clones. I mean, how many can you really play? And he says, well, this is a little bit different. It's a lot different than you think. So we had played a couple game sessions across Zoom, and I was really blown away by it. I really was. And that's when I picked this one. that's this right here. Swords and Wizardry. This is... It is a clone, but it's a reprint of the original wooden box set of D&D. Now, the original wooden box set goes way back before the red box set that came out that the majority of us who first got into D&D in the 80s remembers. This is way older than that. But the cool thing is how they modernized it. That's what sets this game apart from the original writings in the original game. The cool thing I enjoy about it is the simplicity. It's so simple that it is very, very easy to be used in a solo environment. And let's open it up and get into it and talk about it a little bit, what this is. So this was a limited run, meaning the publisher is only going to publish so many of these, and after that it's done. There's no more coming. And if you got one, you got one, and if you didn't, you probably never will until it's out of print and somebody wants to charge you an exuberant amount of money for it, which is the original white set here. They broke it up into 4 sections, and comes with your monster book, your spells and magic, the referee's book, which you could also call the DM's guide, and then of course the player book, which would be if you're the PC, and then of course comes with some character sheets, which are basically basic D&D. But let's talk about some of the differences with this game, which makes it way better for solo play than even the basic D&D. Now, I know some of you out there might be saying, oh, how can you say that? Well, let me explain. So, the two things about basic D&D, advanced D&D, and second edition that we saw was, first of all, the saving throw matrix. And if you looked at the saving throw matrix, it had a saving throw for every single attribute. And as you went up in levels, those numbers would change, reflecting the level of the character. Which, fair enough, a lot of RPG systems do that. That's nothing new or old or a radical idea, if you will. But there was a lot of confusion, I think, for a lot of people, particularly when it came to the saving throws. And you would look at them, and sometimes you get into a situation that just didn't seem to fit into any of those saving throws that you had. So you would have to, well, pick the best one and hope for the best. Which, fair enough, for at the time, for what it was, that was pretty cool. I mean, we've seen 3rd edition come out, and they scrapped that idea, and they came out with a basic saving throw of fortitude, reflex, and will, which is very simple. Everybody liked that. It streamlined it. They went a step further. Now when you create your character class, you have one saving throw. That number covers everything. It covers everything across the board. Anything you have to roll a save for, whether it's a spot check, a listen, whatever it is, you just have that one target number to worry about, which for solo play is absolutely wonderful because it's simplicity. And for us, well, it makes it just that much more enjoyable at the game table to be able to enjoy. And I don't know about you folks out there, but I know for me, the more simple a game system is, the more enjoyable it is for solo play. It doesn't feel that clunky, it moves good, it has a steady game flow to it, and you really enjoy it. You spend more time gaming and enjoying the game than you do chasing through series of books trying to track down a particular number or a wording of a rule or what have you that some of the more complex modern gaming systems have out there. So that is Swords and Wizardry. The fact that they did that was very cool. The other thing I liked that they did about this, how they modernized it. So if you look at the old systems of D&D, you had these reference charts for AC, one for the encounters of the monsters and one for your characters. You would at that point look at the AC number, and then you would cross-reference that on the HD, how many HD or hit dice your character or the monster had with the AC number, and it would give you a number to roll, and that was your target number for the AC. Now this system still uses that if you want to play strictly old school basic D&D the way that it was written. It's still all there, but they do what's called an ascending AC, and they made it very simple, more modernized it into a D20 system to where even all your encounters have that target number in parentheses underneath each description. So there's no more going back to these charts. Everything's right there. Just speeds up game time and makes it more simple, more enjoyable, more modern, but it doesn't lose any of the old school feel. This game system feels, it is basic D&D, the goodness of basic D&D, of what it was meant to be when it came out. It's just been more modernized, more cohesive, and more enjoyable. But don't fret, don't think you're gonna miss out. I had decided to pick this setup because I've always wanted a copy of the original box set of D&D. It was the original. How Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson envisioned it in the day when D&D came out, before it went through all its revisions and additions and everything up to what we have today. At its core, it was how they saw the game system. And considering the name, that is just when you hear the name, you can't help but think about D&D, and that's Matt Finch, who is, his name is attached to this product. And right there, when you see the name, you know it's going to be a good product. So, but as I said, don't fret, because they sell a hardback copy. You get the hardback copy that is essentially what we would consider advanced D&D. And advanced D&D, where at that point you are given the option to choose your character class, to choose your race, and be able to, at that point, really customize your character to the way that you want them to and play it. But has, just like that system, has the ascending AC, the saving throw, everything's the same, makes it simple. Out of all the retro clone systems I have played, I have to say, by far, even Basic Fantasy, this leaves Basic Fantasy in the dust. I mean, Basic Fantasy, pardon me, is decent for what it is. It's kind of a, well, how do I put this? It's an old school revival game system built on the 3rd edition mechanics, and I still have the original Basic Fantasies that came out and some of the modules, but I haven't progressed beyond that. And I'm sure at this point, I would imagine probably by now everything's compatible with 5th edition out there. Like I said, I'm not sure. I haven't picked up any of their stuff. I just kind of, it was interesting at the time. I enjoyed it at the time for what it was. It's still a good game system, don't get me wrong. I'm not bashing it, but I'm just saying, if you're looking for an old school basic D&D solo experience to bring to your game table, Swords and Wizardry is where it is at. It really is, and I don't think you will be disappointed whatsoever in it, and you'll probably find a lot of hours of fun with it. Now, let's talk about another game system that I really enjoy solo. And if you are just getting into RPG hobby, and you're looking for a place to start out, I think a lot of people, I have suggested before in the past, basic D&D. There's all these OSRs out there. There's all these different game systems out there. I would have to say, even though it seems like the logical place to start, which would be, of course, 5th edition D&D, it wouldn't be. I wouldn't send anybody to 5th edition D&D. Not because, as you may think, like an edition war, or because I enjoy older editions of D&D. It has nothing to do with that. It's just because of the complexity of rules, the fact that all of the rules are spread across different hardcover books that have to be purchased individually and put together, and there's just a whole, as a whole, the system is broken. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm not talking about the system itself is broken. What I'm talking about is the way that they got the books spread, and you have to buy all the books to put everything together to play the game. There is a game system out there, however, you can pick up. Everything comes just like the way old school gaming was meant to be. Everything comes in a box. It all comes in a box. It's ready to play. You just open it up and you, boom. That is this one, Forbidden Lands. Forbidden Lands is an excellent, excellent system. It's a cooperative sandbox system. Now, I have reviewed this game before on my channel, and I'm not going to get into a whole full-blown review of this game because I've already done it. But what I am going to say, if you're new, you're looking for somewhere to start, you're looking for that game system to make that first leap into it, and this is a system you will not be disappointed with. This is a system you're going to find hours upon hours of enjoyment. The best thing about the system is it's played cooperatively, so you can sit down and learn this solo and play it, and then you can show other people. You can sit down across Zoom and play it with other people in Zoom. The whole entire world has a great backstory on it. Everything about this, given that it is an extremely modern game that was released a few years ago, has such a good old school feel to it. That's what I think draws a lot of the old school gamers to it, and why they enjoy it so much, for the fact that it's, in my opinion, a new approach to an older game system. But the fact that it's new, it's like breathing a breath of fresh air into the gaming hobby, and giving a lot of people a different perspective on gaming, maybe one that they haven't looked at before. And the fact that the way this is made to be cooperative, not like other RPGs we see out there where one person it takes on the role of the dungeon master or game master, and then you have your other players, and then you always have the issue of scheduling, people getting together. If you've ever played in a group before, you know how this works out. Sometimes people might gravitate and come into the group that may not just work out. You're going to have personality issues. You're going to have maybe they don't want to play the game the way everybody else does. They just want to destroy the whole entire world for their own amusement, just to see it burn. And maybe other people don't want that. And with that headache, and it creates, I've seen it just creates animosity amongst people. Sometimes friendships have ended over it just because of it. Whereas if this system doesn't have that, you can pick this system up, you can sit down, go through it, and as a matter of fact, you'll have your own RPG system, your own story, and your own world in a very short amount of time. Another thing that I did pick up for it, which I haven't even got into it, this world is so vast. It's freaking huge. I played several game sessions gotten a few hexes into it, and just the way that it plays, the detail into it, blows me away. But I did pick up the other book to it, which is this one, The Bitter Reach. The Bitter Reach offers you more character classes, more encounters. It also gives you another map and expands the world even more, and just gives you a whole lot more to enjoy. So it's a very, very, very cool game system. And for those of you looking for the old school solo RPG feel to get into out there and do that, definitely one to check out, and definitely one, if you don't have it in your game library, maybe you want to think about putting it in there. Another game that I have picked up, and I haven't played it, and I sat down, I read through it. It's unique, it's simple. For solo, it looks like it has a lot of potential. But realistically, I would go to Swords and Wizardry first before I would go to this. Now, it doesn't mean I will not play it, because absolutely, I bought it with the intention to play it, not just to sit on my shelf and collect dust. That's, I've been very, very particular about games I purchased lately, because I don't want any more dust collectors. Those are just, I'm through with that. We all know what I'm talking about. This game system that has this fantastic art on the cover and promises all this great adventure and all this stuff, and then you get it and you look at it and you are so disappointed. The system is clunky, the rules are clunky, you spend more time flipping back and forth through the book to try to make the system work, and you find you're spending more time covering pages than you are playing, and ultimately at that point it turns into a dust collector. It's shelved, and that's where it sits. So the Fantasy Trip it's an old game. The story behind it is Steve Jackson wrote this, I guess, back in the 70s. Think of basic D&D. It's the world, it's a high fantasy world where you resume the persona of either a fighter or a magic user or a cleric or a thief or whatever it is, whatever character class you decide to choose. And of course, you're out at that point adventuring through the world, looking for treasure and artifacts and everything else that a fantasy setting would offer. The game system has it. It's an extremely simple system. It only has 3 stats to use the character, and you have your movement allowance. Pretty much from the unique perspective of how this game works. So everything utilizes a D6 die, and as you go to take a, let's just say you're going to do a dexterity check, perhaps your character is trying to leap over a large crack in the dungeon floor that may fall down to God knows how far. So now this is going to be a difficult challenge for them. Let's say their dex score is a 14, but for the fact that it's a difficult challenge, you would normally roll your 3d6, but now you're going to add, we'll say, 4 more d6 to that. Now, if your combined final score equals more than your dex attribute, you have failed. So you ultimately want to keep it as low as possible to be able to succeed the task. Which is kind of, it's interesting, given the fact that a lot of D6 systems gravitate towards those 6s, and when the 6 comes up at that point, bonus, re-roll, another 6, another 6. Whereas if this system takes it into a completely different realm, if you will, where you don't want these 6s, you want the 1s. It's just very unique. It's a unique system. It's one, we got a long holiday weekend coming up, and it's probably one I'm going to sit down and make some characters. Character creation is very simple. It's templated. You go through it, you pick a character, it already gives you base stat scores, and at that point you're allotted so many points over that you can put into the attributes however you want to customize the character and go from there. But beyond that, it's a very simplistic game. The one thing I have noticed by looking at it, it teeters on, and this is my opinion, but it teeters on miniature skirmish, if you will, for the fact that everything is referred to in a hexagonal grid, and the way that the movement works, flanking your opponent, arcs of movement, so on and so forth, is very reminiscent of miniature play, but in fact it is a RPG game. So these are my first impressions of this. Like I said, I have not actually sat down at the table and played a game through. I have just done a read through of the book, and it's my first impression of the book, and it seems pretty decent, and we'll see. We'll move on from there, and as soon as I get a playthrough done on this, at that point I'll, you know, and that's the Fantasy Trip, released in 1980. That's a ways, that's a long ways back. Now, one of the other things, good friend of mine, Mr. Lance Addington out there, and Lance is, man, he loves sci-fi, and he loves D&D too. Me and him he will talk a lot about D&D and other game systems and just other things in life, if you will. But there has been a game system that my friend Mr. Lance has been talking about quite a bit. So much, the fact that he convinced me to buy the book. And it's another one that's on my radar to sit down and start reading and going through. Now, it was compatible with 5th edition D&D, but it's not Dungeons and Dragons. It basically uses the open game licensing of 5th edition to power the mechanic system for this game, but the game itself is a standalone game. That game is called Ars Magica. Now, where this game differs is, instead of D&D where you make your character and your party group go out and, well, as the goblin family is sitting there waiting for their Chinese carryout to show up, maybe they're sitting in front of the fire having a conversation. At that point, your party kicks the door in and comes in and slays all of them and takes all of the family belongings and leaves to go to the next room. This is completely different. This is set in the historical timeline, our historical timeline of Earth, but you are a magician. And now, like I said, I haven't read through this book, so I can't elaborate on it a whole lot. I'm going off of what Lance told me about it. And it's at that point that you construct a stronghold, and you have minions underneath you and fighters, and you you maintain them, and they carry out your, basically, all of the issues that you don't have time to deal with because you're a magician and you're studying and trying to expand your spell book, if you will, in the arcanic arts. You have them do it. That's what they're there for. So he says it's very unique how it works out, and there's been a lot of supplements added for this game, and he talks about it all the time. He loves it. He just absolutely loves it. It's one I'm looking forward to getting into and sitting down and actually playing. But he did say it's a very rules heavy, complex game though. So if you tend to not really like those type of games, you don't like rules heavy, you don't like complicated games, you like something more simple, Ars Magica may not be for you. But if you do enjoy those, you do enjoy that, and you're ready to maybe take that leap and get into something that's more in depth, that's going to basically offer you more of a challenge and broaden your gaming horizons, we'll say, Ars Magica may be the game system for you. And yeah, it's been very, very, very cool. And I hope some of you will check some of this out. Give it a chance and see what you think about it. Ars Magica, the fantasy trip, Forbidden Lands. And we cannot forget Swords and Wizardry. Now, there has been one other game. It's no longer in print, and I actually bought it used. And I have to admit, it's a very simple game. The strategy is endless, and it is a board game that I'm talking about. That game being this one, Battleship Galaxies. Now, if none of you have ever heard about this, I'm sure some of you may be sitting there going, huh? How do we go from RPG to Battleship? Well, let's get into this a little bit. So, if you have been watching my channel for any amount of time, you know I love my minis. I love miniature skirmish. I love miniature scenario, stuff like that. Really enjoy them. I really enjoy wargaming. This game offers just that. Let's take a look inside and see what you get. Not only do you get this awesome, it's a huge, this is just one half of the playing grid that you get with this game. But also, what you get to deploy against your opponent on the starfield, you will, are some highly detailed minis. Now, the cool thing about this system is each card has a grid system upon it. And when you attack, you roll an 8-sider and a 10-sider, like so. That goes from A to J. Now, if you were to roll a 3, let's say F, at that point, you would look at the card and see if it hit that vessel. If it did hit that vessel, it would be at that point that one of your shield points would be removed from the base of your vessel, and then a hull marker would be installed, showing now the next time it gets hit, at that point the hull is taking direct damage to, at that point, obliterate your opponent's ships out of space. That is the whole basically gist of the game. It's a great miniature skirmish game that you can deploy and play. The cool thing is, it's a simple game. It's very, very simplistic, and even people that may not like a lot of the gaming that you may enjoy, such as your tabletop RPGs and things, so on and so forth like that, you may find that they may enjoy this for the fact that the rules are very simple. Rules are simple to explain and to get people to play. Where the complexity comes in is the strategy, how it's deployed, how you move, and how you think 5 turns ahead. Just like chess, to be able to defeat your opponent, or will your opponent defeat you? And of course, it all comes back down to the luck of the die. I love that. So, those are some of the things I wanted to share with you guys, get out there, that I have recently been into, and I have been doing. I'm still around, I'm still here, I'm still alive, still kicking. I know I haven't made a video in a while. It's just I've been very, very busy with work, and really haven't had a whole lot of time to really sit down and think of what do I want to make a video about, and yeah, that's pretty much been about it. I've been pretty much coming home and enjoying a little bit of solo play, and just trying to rest and get ready for the next day. So that's pretty much. I'm sure a lot of you out there that are like me and have stayed busy and worked through the pandemic, you understand where I'm coming from. And we've went from being very steady and busy to crazy nuts busy now. So it is what it is, right? You take you roll with the punches, and you just keep moving along. All right, my friends, that's got a couple game systems I wanted to talk to you. Get out there, and maybe you guys want to integrate these into your libraries. I hope so. Let me know in the comments if you have any of these games, what you enjoy about them, what you like the most about them, or maybe what game systems you found that you would much prefer over any of these, which is cool. We all have different gaming tastes to what we like and we like to enjoy. My favorite being fantasy. My friend Lance, he loves sci-fi, and so, but it's cool. It's very cool to be able to get a different perspective from somebody else on a particular game system and see how they're feeling on it and what they like, what they dislike about it. And yeah, it broadens your horizons a little bit, we should say. And you know, I think with that being said, my friends, this is where I'm going to leave the video off. If you enjoyed it, please click the like button, and if you have not subscribed, click that subscribe button followed by the bell icon. Every time I upload a new video, you get a notification so you will not miss one. Game on, my friends, and I hope your Memorial Days are great. I hope you guys have a great holiday, and stay safe out there and get lots of gaming done. Alright, my friends, it's Artichoke Dip signing off.